Welcome back, boxing fans. We're here again with Al Bernstein. We're looking to discuss the Manny Pacquiao Timothy Bradley, controversy and its aftermath. As everyone knows, Timothy Bradley won a controversial split decision over Manny Pacquiao June 9th, a fight many felt Pacquiao should have won. Just looking at the fight, what was your impression of the fight?
Well, I didn't see it live. I saw it because I was at the Hall of Fame. Just couldn't get to a place to see it, but I did see it on replay. I've seen it twice since then. I saw it on an internet feed that wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And based upon that internet feed that wasn't perfect, I scored 9-3 for Pacquiao.
Okay.
Then I watched it again Saturday night when HBO had its re-air, and I scored it 8-4 for Pacquiao.
Okay.
I thought Manny Pacquiao won the fight. There's no question. It was not an 11-1 fight. Some people think it was an 11-1 or 10-2 fight. Maybe you can make a case for 10-2, I guess. But I think there were several rounds that Tim Bradley won. They weren't, maybe he didn't dominate totally in those rounds, but even if you look at the punch numbers, Manny Pacquiao landing about 100 more punches. Well, after the first two rounds, for instance, Pacquiao had a 29-25 lead in terms of number of punches landed. Okay?
Right.
So that's not monstrous, and we know he landed the harder punches then, but, and then, so if you take those punches when they were landed round by round, there are some rounds in which Tim Bradley did a little better, and some would give him more rounds and some would give him less. There is no conceivable way, in my mind, to get to 7 rounds to 5 for Bradley. Okay. I just don't see that.
Gotcha. Before the fight, what kind of fight were you expecting? Like, what kind of test were you expecting Bradley to give Pacquiao, and how was the fight maybe different than you might have expected?
Well, I expected Bradley to swarm him more. Bradley moved backwards for most of this fight and still managed to actually have his moments, and he would attack in spurts. I think the foot injury it was an issue for Bradley. I don't think that's an excuse. I think that was an issue. He's already not a big puncher, and now that took away a little more of his ability to throw punches with power because you use your feet to do that. So I think that was an issue. And I was expecting him to be a little more active, although he did throw more punches than Pacquiao. There's one important thing to say about Pacquiao at this juncture. It was not a great performance by Manny Pacquiao. It wasn't. It's fascinating to me that he won. He deserved to win. He beat a fighter who was undefeated. I don't think Tim Bradley had a great performance in the fight.
Right.
But what was striking to me about Manny Pacquiao is off balance, lunging, looping punches, not as many combinations as we saw. This is not the fighter that we saw 3 fights ago. This is the fighter that fought Mosley and that fought Marquez. And, he won those 2 fights. Marquez, you can make a strong case that he lost it. But we have not seen the same Pacquiao we saw before that. It's the Pacquiao that had reinvented himself. There was a lot of lateral movement against Bradley. It was the old Pacquiao coming straight in and jab straight left hand. Now, it won him the fight, and it used to win him most of those fights when he fought against the great fighters in the lower weight divisions, Marquez, Barrera, Morales. But it's not the most effective Manny Pacquiao.
Do you feel that's the fact that maybe 60 fights have taken a toll on him a little bit, or what's your opinion on that?
Yes, I think he's 33 years old. He's been in a lot of fights. Some have been difficult fights. And I think it's natural attrition. He could probably still beat most everybody, certainly from around 140 pounds, maybe up to 147. I do not believe he's going to beat Floyd Mayweather fighting that way. That performance against Bradley and the one he gave against Marquez would, especially this one against Bradley, more so.
Yeah.
Because all those times he was wide open to be hit with straight right hands that Bradley didn't. Mayweather would hit him with those punches.
Got you. Now looking at Tim Bradley's future, on one hand he's still undefeated. He's just beat Manny Pacquiao, and on the other, maybe the win is tainted in the eyes of many because they felt he should have lost. What are your thoughts about Tim Bradley's future moving forward?
Well, it's interesting. We didn't see the best Tim Bradley in that fight. Okay. And I think they're talking about not even having the rematch right away with Pacquiao. I don't know if that's going to be the case. And I think the reason for that is they feel like everybody felt Pacquiao won the fight in any case, so they're not holding it against Pacquiao. And Bradley needs to almost be, he went over the top rank as a promoter and had the one fight with Casamayor and then had this fight. They didn't have a chance to show the world. Tim Bradley had been hell on wheels leading up to those fights. I did this fight. He beat Lamont Peterson easily. Beat a bunch of other fighters. I think they want to see Tim Bradley in an exciting fight that he can win. And I think that's what we're going to see from Bradley. And his next time out is the most important fight of Tim Bradley's career. He has to remind people why we were all excited about him in the first place in this fight. Because even though he got the win, we didn't see the Tim Bradley we thought we were going to see. And some of that may have had to do with that ankle injury. But in any case, this next fight out for Bradley is really important.
And he had mentioned that he's going to go back to, I think, 140. That he, do you think that maybe a fight with Mike Alvarado, or what type of fights might you see rise to the surface for Bradley?
Well, Alvarado's a good fight. That's a tough fight for Tim Bradley. But it would be just the kind of fight that, even though Mike Alvarado's not well known, Mike Alvarado's been in wars, and he's a very exciting fighter. That would be a fight. The best fight for him would be Amir Khan. Now, that's two different promotional companies. That'd be the best fight. The best fight for boxing. The best fight for him. It would create a very interesting fight. I mean, this is where, unfortunately, we get into this idea of boxing having a difficult time scheduling certain fights because of promotional contracts.
Now, Bradley, after his performance a few days, he was on the Boxing Lab, Boxing Scenes radio show, and you could sense a little discouragement in the fact that some people were criticizing the way he won. He said, I don't love boxing anymore. I don't, I'm not trying to be a legend. It's just about maybe making a little bit of money. And do you feel that maybe those statements just show his frustration a few days removed from the fight, and that he will get that passion and hunger back in time?
Well, he's a performer, and you have to be careful, I think, about what you say. Victor Ortiz had a hard time rehabilitating himself after the comments he made after the Maidana loss. I think Tim Bradley can't be delusional. He has to understand that most people think he lost the fight. Now, I believe that some of that was overdone a bit. I mean, because again, as I said, I don't think this was 11-1 fight. And I don't think, well, I do think it was an unjust decision. I think some of the controversy, and this so often happens now, there's no gray area. Everything's either black and white, everything goes extreme here or extreme there. So I think there's probably frustration on his part, but he has to be understanding of the fact that he didn't give his best. It wasn't his best fight. He didn't fight as Tim Bradley. Tim Bradley that we like to see. The Tim Bradley that, as an entertainer and a performer, is fun to watch is the perpetual motion Tim Bradley who wins by sheer will. He didn't win this by sheer will. He won it with guile, and didn't really win it with guile, most people feel. So that, I think, is something he has to accept and understand.
Now, Manny Pacquiao, they're talking about a possible fourth fight with Juan Manuel Marquez. The first three fights have all been close. Is that a fight you feel the public would be interested in? And
it's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I just don't know the answer to that. I think it's intriguing, and I think it would be a fight people would, for the most part, be interested in. But because we live in the pay-per-view era with those kind of fights, will people pay $50 to see it? That's the question. If you put that fight on free TV, you'd get a monstrous rating, right? I mean, or if if you put it on HBO or Showtime, which you could never do, their numbers would, the whole universe of these two places would be looking at it. But people have to want to buy it, and I don't know about that. That's a good question.
Got you. Thanks a lot, Al. Great insight. We appreciate it.
Okay.